edition of the Football Exponential Show. And today I would be your host, and I would be on the um session today with my good friend Franklin. Hey Frank, how you doing?
Hi Kingsley, how we doing? How we doing? I know we've not been around for. I think this is our first recording in a little bit of time. So as you know,
Yeah.
life has been happening on both our ends. So but it's good to be back talking all things football again.
Absolutely, absolutely good to be back. Some things have been happening on the positive side, and some people have not had that same amount of joy when we talk about the footballing world. But I've been one of those joyous people. It's been a very good couple of at least April has been good to Barca. It's been good to me. It's been good for Spanish football, depending on how you look at it and what side of Spanish football that you're leaning towards. But anyhow, we're here today to unpack quite some interesting topics around the world of European football, and we'll be going from coast to coast. As you know, whenever I'm on air, we'll be going from coast to coast. So we'll start quickly with we'll start quickly with European football, and we're not just going to sit on the male side. We'll be looking at the amazing things happening in the world of European Champions League football on the female side as well. We'll be talking about La Liga and the title race challenge, and obviously Atletico Madrid has bowed out. So some of you who had hopes that it would be a three-horse race is official. Now it's a two-horse race and it's the Formula Two. Of course, the Premier League, we know where it's headed, so there is no race there. However, there is a five-man race going on for the top four position. We'll be unpacking that as well. We'll be reviewing some interesting players around the globe this week, and we'll be talking about the three outstanding teams that are still going for the treble and what their chances are. And of course, we will now be unpacking our friend in the Premier League title winning favorite, Mo Salah, and to understand what is going on there. Starting off again with the Champions League football. What did you make of Arsenal knocking out Real Madrid, Inter conquering Bayern Munich? I mean, ending the dreams for a final in their home stadium, and Barcelona finding their way to navigate through Dortmund, um, and obviously. Um, we had a straight passage for well, not so straight passage, but we saw um PSG navigate the turbulent challenges posed by Aston Villa. What do you make of the of those games and now the final four?
Okay, because I think this is just quick reaction to those games as you call them out. So starting with the Aston Villa PSG game. I was really impressed with Aston Villa how they managed to find their way back into this tie, especially after the first leg result and going 2 goals down at home. They responded quite excellently to both PSG goals, and they managed to get some nice goals on it as well. But unfortunately, it wasn't enough on the night to see them bring the tie level. But I really enjoyed seeing some good football from Villa on the day. But it just shows how much that third goal in the first leg was decisive on both sides of the day because and that's that kept it at 2-1 because I know the last goal was quite late in the day during the first leg. Had it been a 2-1 defeat in the first leg, Villa might have fancied themselves more comfortable in the second leg. But then again, they played some good football. And I think PSG for the first time in a long time they got
Go
they
Ratchet, yeah.
yeah they got around to I know it's because it was quite intense to see how they responded to that because you expect them to face tougher challenges going into the semi-finals. But it was very, but at the same time, it's kind of hard to gauge how their levels were, especially they didn't when you score 2 goals away from home to add to the three you scored home, you go 5-1 clear on the time. Like, it seems that mental side, okay, the game is done. This a bit of carelessness creeps in. At the end of the day, that man of the match on their side is probably their goalkeeper for the first time in a long time. So Roma
No,
had
not
it very.
really. Not
Oh,
really.
no, no, no,
Yeah,
no, no.
because the game against I think who did they knock out Liverpool the second leg. I think he had an amazing game too. I think it was probably the man of the match as well.
Yeah, but it was also the reason why they lost the first leg.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. I'll say this one. I'll say for the first time in a long time, he had an outstanding performance that there's no debate to. I think was one of the match on that day. And again, it's of course again it's interesting to see how they navigate a tough aspect because they're going to get a very different experience with this Arsenal, another Premier League team. But it's going to be an interesting semi-final. But with that seems like they can keep their heads up. They responded fantastic on the night. The crowd was behind them. Scored some fantastic goals. Tillemans, McGinn, Rashford for bit were all super on the night. But just a bit, they left themselves with just a bit too much work to do over 2 legs. So that's it. And the next one, Borussia Dortmund, Barcelona. Now this one is more interesting in terms of my overall observations of Barcelona over the course of this season because I've always felt the way Barca play. I understand that's how they play, but you can't go into big ties like this. I know the game, the first leg was you win comfortably, but at the same time you cannot allow your opposition to get so the amount of shots Barcelona concede in games that is quite it worries me. I don't know about Barca fans, but it worries me when you see the highlight at away at Dortmund, with the kind of attackers they have. Guirassy on the day, Julian Brandt, and Deyemi, those kind of guys, they're quite fast, but also good finishers as well, and quite guys in find passes. I just felt, I don't want to say naive, but I just felt the lack, Barca just showed enough in-game management in that second leg. And it could have been really, 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 really tricky for them. Had it not been for
Definitely.
the young goal and some wasteful finish on that one side. But again, it's part of the journey where you don't give or you die by the sound of how you play, and this is what's happening. This is the thing that gives away a lot of chances, but it also creates a score a lot of chances. I think Barca has scored about 120 goals or more than that all competitions this year. But at the same time, if they're one of the first. I can't remember any team that's considered three hat tricks to three different strikers in different competitions this season. Guirassy and this weekend, Boya Iglesias and
But
another
yeah, this is, I think the Benfica's game they considered to
yeah,
probably
Pavlidis or something like that. But
yeah.
it's again, but this is a worry when especially when you go up against the likes of Lautaro Martinez, so close again, coming clutch for Inter Milan this quarterfinal time, and again Marcos Thuram, who his availability for the second leg is a bit in doubt alongside Lewandowski. Which then makes the game more a different position on both sides. But again, the both sides they found a way to get it done. They'll be I expect them to play better, but at the same time it shows how important Pedri is to this team. Because I think the first half, it wasn't playing for the first 15
It
or first
wasn't, it
half.
was, yeah, he wasn't on the bench until I think even past the 60-minute mark in the
Yeah.
second half.
And I feel like immediately stepped up to the pitch with this calmness, this control, the maturity brought for such a young player, because we always tend to forget it's quite a young player
Yeah,
as
it's
well.
about 22 years old, yeah.
Yeah, for the amount of control and influence he has on this team is remarkable. It's remarkable. He takes them not just one, he takes them two or three notches in terms of that level. But again, with Barca, I think they will fancy that chance against Inter Milan. That's the Inter Milan are a very unique Italian team. They do a lot of old school Italian defending well. They defend their box excellently well. I said that they counter very quickly, have a bit of pace on attack and wing backs, but they're coming. What's his name? Ballon d'Or is finally getting into adding some clutch goals into his Arsenal quite recently, fell in tie against Bayern Munich. How do you feel heading into that tie?
Well, to be honest, I feel like the better draw will be Barca Bayern, but it is what it is, Barca Inter. I think even from the words from the start of the group stages up until now, Inter has always shown that, compactiveness when defending, and they have that explosiveness as well when attacking, and something that you hardly see in any side in European football at the moment. I think the closest to what you would see would be Atletico Madrid, but they've not done that to perfection this season as well. So, but
Also,
yeah,
in terms of that, I'll say the closest to them. I'll say it's probably Arsenal in terms of being very resolute and defending and being excellent defenders at the same time as carrying enough attacking threats. Because you mentioned Atletico Madrid, but I feel like I've not really been convinced about what they're doing
Yeah, but
the last couple
but
of
if you
years.
think about it, Arsenal's attack has been their weakness, and it's funny how they managed to put 5 goals past Real Madrid, but it's still been their weakness for most part of it in clutch moment this season. Because without Busayo Saka rather, you can't really think of an out and out threat that Arsenal would confidently say on the night can give them that
Set
attacking
pieces.
sharpness. Well, set pieces. It's not set pieces. It's a hit or miss, right? And
So
it's not part of the in-game activity. If you get where I'm coming from,
no,
I do
no, but
appreciate the brilliance of Declan Rice. I do appreciate the brilliance of having corners and all of that into the box, but you have to carry enough threat to be able to even get those set pieces in
yeah,
very
yeah,
important
yeah,
segments of the pitch.
yeah. I agree with that. But at the same time, it's always champion, especially in knockout football, particularly knockout football. It's not necessarily the team that plays the most flamboyant and the most exciting football, or scores the most goals per matches.
Absolutely,
It's not.
absolutely.
It's normally a team that has to be off. That has a lot of structure, a lot of players brought into the system over time. Even a short period of a well-coached team like Chelsea's
Hmm.
got Chelsea that took. And sometimes it seems like even Chelsea in 2012, where they just a lot of players on the last legs and that club, they just all seem to just muster one last ride and just go on this epic story where they shouldn't be beating the team to beat on that run to that final and even the final itself. Well, speaking of that final, the Chelsea equalizer came from the set piece, and the set pieces are very important in this situation because again, knockout time. I think we've been spoiled in the last few years. So I think it's benefit of the away goal being taken away. Where
Hmm.
knockout times, we're seeing a lot more goals in knockout time football these days. Where
Yeah.
but the Barca game, the PSG, even the Arsenal Premier League game, we've seen more goals. And Arsenal, they do on paper they look like they're missing that star quality attacker. Where if it's not Saka, who else will it be? But at the same time, Martinelli Martinelli leaves the Bernabeu with a goal. Moreno
Hmm.
had one against Arsenal, against Real Madrid at home. That's it shows there's little that where they're not really relying on one person to say, okay, of course they Saka, but other players can chip in goals. Even guys like Odegaard hasn't really shown his best self in those times against Real Madrid, but he still carries potent good players. So it's just very in terms of what's in terms of what PSG can worry about. It's just because I feel Arsenal take a lot of confidence in the fact they played PSG already this season at the Emirates
Hmm.
Stadium. They dispatched them quite comfortably. But then again, football.
But that's a different PSG team.
Exactly,
That PSG,
exactly.
this PSG has evolved, and in
Yeah,
addition to this PSG being evolved and being more mature, I feel like besides Barcelona, PSG has the most potent attack of all the teams left in the competition at the moment. And even with Barca, it's relatively debatable. Yeah, if you think about it, they've got Usman,
that's
they've got Barcola, they've got Kvaratskhelia, they've got um,
yeah, and yeah.
D, they've got Desire. Dre. I mean,
There's a do it. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. They have. I think in terms of exciting players, they have. I think they have the best collection of exciting players in this semi-final time across all the teams. They have not star players, but they have very good players in very good moments right now. Just
Uh-huh.
from Bakola, Desiree doing Kawashila Dembele is looking like a 40 goal this season player all of a sudden. So it's going to be interesting. But at the same time, it's always, I felt in that tie against Liverpool, I know they won the penalties. I felt that's the time across two legs they missed like they missed the Lewandowski, they missed the
Uh-huh.
Lautaro Martinez, they missed that focal point in attack that okay, get him the ball in the right position. She's going to finish. But at the same time,
Absolutely.
there's also a flip side that when you have multiple players that can all chip in goals, even the fullbacks
Uh-huh.
like him and
Mendy has been
Mendes,
brilliant this season.
Mendes
He's
have
been
all chipped in.
brilliant.
They've all chipped in
Yeah,
goals in the game. So it shows. I think it shows a team that has a lot of attacking
yeah,
intent, a lot of creativity, a lot of
absolutely.
flair. But let's hone in. Who do you expect to progress to the final on this side, the Arsenal and PSG side of the tie?
Um, I think Arsenal would just about make it.
Okay.
Uh, I think PSG will play the better football over both legs, but I think Arsenal might just nick it with just that extra little bit of you know, ability to contain the PSG attack, and and a lot of things would play out in that game. Like I think of all the four teams left, Inter Milan has the most number of players that's played at this big level together, right?
Yeah.
Then Arsenal. Arsenal has these players that have been playing together for a longer time, probably not at this level, but they've probably been the same bunch for another close to 3 years or thereabout. So hopefully that counts for something in terms of togetherness, in terms of cohesiveness, and in terms of ability to understand each other's position and expectation. But I feel the absence of Thomas Partey at the first
The
leg
first leg. Yeah. That's
would be a huge decider, especially knowing that that would happen in Arsenal Stadium. So it really depends on um, the goal advantage that Arsenal would take into the second leg, because I feel like going to Paris, the Parc de Paris, it's going to be a slaughterhouse if they don't go in there with any advantage. But if they then go with an advantage, probably 2 goals or thereabout, then PSG will be forced to make hasty decisions, and that would create the opening that Arsenal would need to kill the game off.
yeah.
So I expect Arsenal to just about make it, but it's going to be a very closely contested tie.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with a lot of points you've made, and one point that also is the again set pieces will play. I believe set pieces will play a big factor in this tie across the legs. Because PSG are not, they're not, on paper, they're not the biggest of teams when it comes to the challenges they'll face defending corners. And again, Donnarumma is,
It's very
I expect,
finicky, it's shaky.
yeah, he's very shaky. And I expect him to have one of those shaky moments where he's put under a lot of pressure away at Arsenal. So I think it all depends on how Arsenal play that first leg. The loss of Thomas Partey will be a big miss for Arsenal in terms of how they configure the midfield system with his absence is going to be interesting. Well, for me, I think it's simple. I'll go with I'll try and I'll try and change as little as possible. I'll bring in Jorginho to replace him.
Hmm.
I know he doesn't have the
Does
legs
he have
per
the
se,
legs?
but what he doesn't have, what he lacks in physicality in terms of his running ability, he brings with his experience and practical understanding of the game. This is also a guy that's been here before. Again, this is a few years ago. He's been here with Chelsea, big game, big moments. Been here, been around. Um, even the national team, all the way they made it all the way to the final of the Euros a few years ago. So I think he can come in for a game where he brings a lot of calm into that midfield, a bit of more control, and it sort of releases the guys to go a bit push high up the pitch
I,
and make
I,
a
I,
lot of issues.
I actually would, I actually would go about it slightly different. I
Yeah,
would probably bring in Lewis Kelly into the midfield with
yeah.
Ben White back right now. If Ben White is back right now, he can do the right back job there,
Tim,
because
yeah, there's switch Timber over to the left side.
that's exactly, and switch Justin Timber over
Yeah,
to the right.
I think
And the reason why I'm saying that is because um PSG has the most threat on the flank. You
yeah,
don't want to risk it. He has
because
they have the most, and Ben White doesn't enjoy going up the pitch as much as Lewis Kelly would want to. So he would be quite content to sit at the back and do the job, and that would allow for Saliba and Co to be able to recover quickly, because both side of the like the attacking wings would really be a decider in that game, especially if Saka doesn't make it out of this injury quite quickly. Then that means the best form of attack wouldn't be they won't have any other option than to defend properly down the flank.
okay, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
But
Uh,
but for me, I think PSG will have, yeah, I think PSG will have enough. They have enough in midfield. That's a impressive period. And the guys so far, I see them going away to Aston and getting a victory, and also finishing the job in Paris. That sets up the next side, on the other side, Inter Milan, Barcelona. I think this quite Inter Milan one teams that you particularly have not feared per se, but you've been a bit worried about because they propose a lot of they have a lot of weapons that can hurt Barcelona. How do you feel about
Yeah.
that side?
Yeah, if there's a team that's actually capable of exposing Barcelona's weaknesses, would be Inter Milan, and especially the timing of the ties as well. Do not do Barcelona a great deal of favor. I think Barcelona plays that game right after El Clasico.
Okay.
Um, and then they also keep in mind another El Clasico while they play that game. So it now boils the second leg. So it now boils down to what the priorities might be for the coach and for the club. But looking at Hansi Flick, he comes across as one of those managers that will keep going for everything as long as there's a 1% chance he keeps going at everything, and that might be um, something that would be much of an accuracy. But I still think, depending on how the first leg goes, if Barcelona does beyond a decent job in the first leg, going to San Siro, they can take lessons from what happened in Dortmund. Because one thing I can tell about this Barcelona team is that they seem to learn quite quickly from their flaws. They made serious adjustments to the high line that everybody has been talking about at the start of the season. They became a bit more conservative up until last week, but they look very tired as a unit. They look very tired. I'm not quite convinced that Hansi Flick has done the best job with rotating those players. I think he's gravitating towards I know my 11, and then I'll make changes that would not be too impactful on the structure of those 11. And right now, they're getting body shots left, right, and center. They probably wouldn't have Bade make that game. They probably Lewandowski is literally ruled out for that game, and it would all depend on if they have the first 11 fit. So if they have the first 11 fit, or if they have significant components of that team fit, I see them, just about nicking it. But it's funny, I feel like this time I go all the way to extra time and possible penalty. It's one of those that anybody who wins it will be deserving, but it just depends on who is able to execute on their plan on the night. Um, and also thinking about it from the Inter Milan side of things as well, they've also not been without their own blemish. They refused to get it was impossible for them to get a victory over I think Bologna this weekend.
Yeah, they
Uh,
lost. They lost away to Bologna. Yeah.
and looking at the recap of that game, you could see that even Inter Milan was feeling a bit tired. They were not as intense as they usually would be, right? And it could just be a combination of not even playing that game at home. And they're also equally active in all three competitions. And even as it is right now, they are in a more precarious position in their Serie A than even Barcelona are in La Liga, of which we will get to later part of this edition. So I still feel like the league responsibilities, the cup outcome would all be playing in the minds of these players, especially for the Barca Inter game. And depending on the outcome of the match in Madrid Stadium, Olympic Madrid Stadium in Barcelona, that will be a huge decider. If Barcelona don't get a solid victory in that game, then going to San Siro is going to be a long 90 or 120 minutes, depending on how you say it.
Yeah, it's okay. I think this is going to be a very interesting time because not just you get very attacking team and you get a stereotypical Italian team who are masters at defending, but at the same time they play this unique system where I think they might be one of, if not the only team in across European big leagues or at the top table of European competition that plays with two strikers. And with that, where they have this small man, big man, Lautaro Martinez and Aston, where
Mhm,
they link up perfectly with each other. They create and create and create goals and score at the same time.
mhm,
But my worry before Inter Milan is they they have some injury concerns, and I think Marcus Thuram, there's a Dumfries is another one. I think Hakan Şanoglu is another one as well.
I
Demarco is
think
just
Shanoglu should be fit. Demarco is back. I think he came back
Marco
over the
Demarco is
weekend, but
they just
probably
come.
didn't start the game, but he made the squad.
Yeah,
I think if nothing changes, he should be fit to play that game.
yeah,
Um, I also feel like I feel like Inter Milan are in a position where I don't know. At the end of the day, I might be wrong, but I think they will make some adjustments to accommodate the threats that Barcelona will pose at them because they probably haven't. So far in the competition, they have not played against an attacking monster in the form of Barcelona, where the attack doesn't just stop in the front three. There could be a Daniel Mo, so it's going to be a potent four-man
yeah,
attack.
yeah.
And if you sit deep against that kind of wave of attack, you most likely see cracks. You most
Yeah,
likely see cracks because these are players that are technically good on the ball. And I think it might even be a good thing that Lewandowski don't start that game because this might be a very controversial decision, but Ferran Torres has been very mobile and very fluid up top this season,
yeah.
and that making those runs is exactly what the Italian defense wouldn't want because
That's true. That's true.
if it's a stationary number nine, they know how to deal with you and probably prevent area threats or ball coming from the flank into the middle. But then when Ferran Torres knows how to make those late runs, he knows how to occupy two or more defenders at the same time. And with Daniel more locking around that center box, he's not the guy that you want to have the ball at the edge of the box because he can shoot, but he can attract very dangerous kind of fouls. And these are some of the things that Inter Milan would want to keep an eye on.
Yeah, that's a good point with Lewandowski missing. But at the same time, what you then miss with his absence is that expert finisher he has. That's
Absolutely,
you can be lucky that
absolutely.
Lewandowski to be at the right place, right moment to finish with the right finish at the right time. Also, at the same time, I think with Barca also do have some injury concern, like you mentioned, just is likely to miss, and but I think probably a bigger miss is Baudian too,
Yes,
because not just a miss at Liverpool, but how the his replacement affects the dynamic of the starting lineup.
absolutely,
Because
absolutely.
with his presence, he allows Rafinha to drift more central to the pitch, and it creates that lane down the wing for him to overlap
Yes,
down the flank. And Rafinha gets in the middle, creates overloads alongside Gavi or Fermin Lopez. So they press quite hard. They press quite good from those little moves. But again, I think this game is hard to call, and I will lean towards my general belief that in games like this, more the the, the better the defense or the better defensive team will likely get the result across two legs. And I think that's Inter Milan. They have the experience against Champions League at this level. Not though they've not faced a team like Barcelona yet in a quite a long time, but I think they have enough to just frustrate Barca for over 120 minutes and enough quality in attack to also not just frustrate but create and score one or two chances on the other end. So it's going to be, I think it's going to be a really, really interesting game. It's going to be a game for the tacticals to really digest. Well,
no, absolutely.
I'm guessing your favorite Barca to make it a breakthrough.
Yeah, just about nicking it. To be honest, it's not
Just,
one of those that.
just
Yeah,
about making.
yeah, literally, I like if Barca go all the way to penalties and win by the last penalty, I will be over the moon.
Yeah,
It's not one of those games where you go with an expectation that hey, we're gonna go blow this team away. But I just have a feeling that when defense has been the only way out for Barca, they found a way to do it, and they found a way to do it really well. Although it's not teams of the caliber of Inter Milan, but like when they've needed to defend for their life against the Leganese, this very narrow victory and just holding it on and seeing it through. They've shown that they can do that when it matters, but however, it's not what they prefer to do. But I'm also very skeptical because Hansi Flick cuts across as one of those stubborn, for lack of better word, stubborn, methodological thinking coach. This is how I want you to play. This is the identity of my
Dogmatic.
team. This is, yes, quite, and then in this era of football where those who are willing to adapt and make necessary modifications have been able to scale through. I mean, that's something that Ancelotti has done well for the last couple of years, where you can now say this is set system and all those things. He's able to adapt based on his opponents. I think it might come through in a game like this.
Uh,
So
and and just last one, that I also feel across the season so far, in across different competitions, whenever Barca have been required to turn up with a big game performance, they've more often than not delivered, be it in different different game scenarios where they've been down a couple goals, they had to respond, come back into the game. They've been chasing um, all games where they just go offline from the first minute, or I guess like Real Madrid or what Real Madrid, I think the Borussia Dortmund game where they start off slow, they build up steam and build up momentum, and they starting four goals past them. So it's again, I said, it's a very interesting side to look forward to. So,
eh,
well,
so
well, also just so your your predicted final will be an Arsenal Barcelona
Arsenal
final.
Barca. Yep.
Okay. I think I'm correct on the opposite side of that.
Yeah, you're looking at the PSG Inter Milan final.
PSG timeline. Okay. I think it
Hmm.
comes to I think it comes to predictions on this channel. I think you've gotten more of them right than I have, just off the
Oh
top of
yeah,
my head.
by a mile, by a mile,
Yeah.
by a mile.
But then again, a lot of my feelings has been around Real Madrid. But whenever I've made the Real Madrid prediction, I've gotten it horrible, massively wrong. But that's it on Champions League
That's
side.
it in
So
Champions League.
let's take it domestic competition. Let's start with the Spanish title race. How's that going these days?
Oh man, it's becoming more of a roller coaster than a lot of people would imagine it to be.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's a good thing from a Barca point that is now. You still have a little bit of faith to do it by yourself. However, the environment and the condition resulting from your own success so far has not made the environment very pleasant. It's been pardon my language, been a ton of lose of game to play by this club. Like they play literally, I think it's been 7 or 8 games in less than 3 weeks. It's been back to back 3 games a day or even less. And it's starting to show in the players' performance. Like, um, despite the 4-3 victory against Celta Vigo at home to Barca this weekend, it was a very irritating game to watch from a Barca point of view. Like, it was so easy to run through the middle. Um,
Well,
I don't
that's
think, yeah, I don't think Boga Iglesias would have an easier hat trick in his career if he's had too many. Um, and it's just a testament to, I mean, how appalling the defense has been. I mean, for the other two strikers that scored hat-trick against Barcelona, at least some of them had a penalty to play, and it was a bit more challenging. But yesterday was just literally, it could have been 5-1 at some point.
yeah,
Boga Iglesias should have had at least more than 3 goals. It could have been 5-1 easily. And that just tells you how when that press is not when that press is not intensive, it's very easy to cut through the midfield. And once you're through the midfield, like there's literally nobody at the back. Because take for example, I think it was the second goal. It was the goal. No, it was the goal that led to the hat trick for Borja Iglesias. All of Barca players were in Celta Vigo's half. All.
yeah. It,
And
like
the ball just managed to make its way into the Barca half. And it's more like just run with the ball. And this is where a player like Ronaldo Arroyo could have made a difference because he's the only guy, if his proximity is not too far, he's the only guy that has the pace. Ronaldo Arroyo is one guy that is pretty much faster than a ton of strikers or attacking threats that a lot of people would see, and his pace is quite undermined. But he's one of those that have the ability to recover quite quickly, and if blood doesn't get into his head, he could make the right tackle there. right?
Yeah,
Because he Bogaglisi just kind of he literally kept control of the ball, running progressively towards the goalkeeper until all he had to do was just a tiny little dink to the side of Chelsea. That was how close he got into the box before he could let the shot off. And that means from the midfield position, from the central midfield, central part of the pitch up until the end of Barca's goal, there was literally nobody to contain him. There was
yeah,
nobody. So that in itself is quite alarming. The second goal was a very good finish. If he wanted, he could have squared the ball and it still would have been a goal. So all of those things needs to happen. But it's clear that Celta Vigo targeted the left back position of Barcelona. I think the first two goals came from there. Two more could have come from there. Gerard Martin had a better game against Dortmund than he had against Celta Vigo, and that in itself was a problem. Um, and I think that those are some of the things that would make the title challenge a bit more um concerning from a Barca's point of view because now it's about if my memory serves right, it's about 6 games to go. And I think the next two fixtures are the easiest of the remaining six. So if Barca plays to Mallorca, which is indeed a tricky game, I think they struggled to get off 3 points against Mallorca. Um, my memory serves me. I think they struggled to get all 3 points against Mallorca, even away from home to Mallorca.
yeah,
So if they're able to win that game, I believe it's going to be played tomorrow, and the next one is traveling to Valladolid. I think Valladolid might have been officially relegated. I'll need to fact check that. So if there's nothing to play for Valladolid, then Barcelona can go in there and and be able to nick two victories. And literally, the last four ties are going to be very interesting because I know they play Atletico Bilbao at Samems on the last day of the season. I think they play to Espanyol as well. I think they play I think they play Real Madrid in that last four and one other very tricky team to navigate. So the last four games where it's gonna be decided. But I think El Clasico, where that 3 point goes, or a spoil of 3 points would be more than because it'll be more than it'll be more than defining for the season of La Liga. Because keeping in mind on Real Madrid's side of things as well, they now enjoy a bit more rest starting from this weekend in comparison to Barcelona. And of course, even if Barcelona progresses even beyond that in the Champions League, then they will still need more rest. So, effectively, what it means is that Real Madrid would have 7 days to prepare for the next La Liga games, including the game against Barcelona, as opposed to Barcelona having half the amount of time or even less to prepare for their games. But it's the price you pay when you go further down in the competition.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. That's true.
uh, and then a lot of people are like, you've got to prioritize from a club perspective what is more important to you. But without emotions into it, if you have an opportunity to get all three, you fight for all three because nothing is guaranteed until it's won. But Real Madrid have struggles of their own as well. And some of them have not been as a result of fatigue. Some of them has been as a result of a lack of responsibility to adequately rotate in certain games. Choosing the same kind of style that has not been fully functional, and in addition to wanting all the galaxies of stars to be existing at the same time, even when it's not the most practical thing to do. And um, while all of that creates a menace in Madrid's performance, I think the most absolute bonkers that I see is still believing that Valverde is better off in right back position as opposed to his
No,
optimal
yeah,
performances in central back position. I mean, I don't care whatever it is right now that Ancelotti is thinking. Well, if I were him to the end of the season, that guy goes back to central midfield. And if I need to play my son in that right back, I play him there. All I have to do
David.
is all I have to do is just literally get Savadi in the center of the park and cope whatever way I can in the right back. Because putting him there is just having a Ferrari and never driving beyond 60. That's just what it is.
Yeah, like touching on the on Real Madrid's Ancelotti, Real Madrid, and Valverde. I think it shows how bad that season has gone and how bad Ancelotti has handled the situation where you take one of I think probably one of the best midfielders and one of the best at what he does in the midfield, taking him out of that midfield and all that he brings into that position for the team, and packing him at right back. That's and that's what a lot of coaches tend to, where you're trying to solve one problem, you then create a bigger problem, has more causes more damage to the team. That then leads to a domino effect where your best midfielder is playing at right back, then your midfield is being filled by those two African brothers, Germany and Camavinga, and it
You're
leads to
French.
some, yeah, well, African brothers. Then it leads to something. It leads to
French,
something else.
please.
But again, but let's touch on my Barca. There's, I think there's a, I think just a few of us. I think there's a reason why we don't see this style of play being played anywhere else in European football, because the demands to get it right, it takes a lot to get it right. Not just a lot of hours on the training pitch with that same thing, a lot of shadow play, understanding pressing figures, understanding when to keep that high line. Because the goal is to squeeze the position high on the pitch as much as possible, force turnovers, you get the ball closer to goal, you create more chances from there, and you score more goals. But at the same time, it relies heavy on intensity, it relies heavy on players' fitness. They all play to how the system has been interpreted. And when you then have injuries to just, even if you just, it's taking personnel, or players are not as quick as they were, even if it's just by split second, even if a player has time on the ball to get his head and find that pass, they can cause trouble. But I think with Barca, it's almost, it's there are different reasons why this shouldn't be working, because I don't think Barca have the best goalkeeper when it comes to sweeping off his line. They don't have the they're not the fastest of teams. But at the same time, they have this situation where they have generally have two or three of the best players currently play football, and it's not Rafinha. I'm talking about Pedri. I'm talking about, yeah, Lewandowski, Yamal, those guys, not that Brazilian. But then again, they I won't say they got,
So they probably have four of the best players, going by your description.
well, not by my book. Rafinha isn't anywhere near that. But that's a discussion for another day. But also, it seems they find it, and I have to praise the mentality of this team. They're very, I think for the first time, this is probably the most resilient Barca team I've seen in a long time, because the amount of times they've gone, because when you concede a lot of goals, it's kind of hard
Mhm.
to not react and fall to defeat. But they always, the bigger the bigger the task I have, the more they always find a way to find the solution to it. So, and it's from different players. For Torres, I spoke about in the previous recording, how he's somehow found a way to be a bitter player, but also a necessary score member at this part of the season, where you can count on him for a goal or two off the bench, or when he starts in cup competition at the same time. But I think for me, but I still think the difference maker still is Yamal. For me, hands down the best player currently playing football right now. It's the his I don't think at this age, the likes of Ronaldinho, Messi, Neymar were playing this good at this level consistently the way Yamal has. It's ridiculous what he's able to do. One, not just what he's doing, but the confidence and ease at which he's doing it, and the trust he has from his teammates, the coach, and the fans at the same time, and also carrying that responsibility quite well. Because this is a 17-year-old.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah,
He
still a
has more
17-year-old.
assists than the number of years on earth. That's something
Yeah,
to put in there.
exactly. That's crazy. But I think overall, I expect Barca to ride the challenges of fixture congestion, and I expect them to just have enough goals in that team to put him aside. And at the same time, I expect Real Madrid to have, because what's there to say about Real Madrid that I haven't said already or hasn't been said already, especially since the Champions League exit. It's just more of the same this weekend against Bilbao, where they get the ball, they have a lot of the ball, but at the same time, it's very stagnant. They're not winning everything. There's no movement in the front lines. Players are very slow to react. For a team that has or you expect your team has some excellent players. You see a lot of players getting the bad touches more often than they should be saying. Vinicius is one of them. I really don't know what's happened to that guy in the last 6 months. Because it's definitely a mental thing. Because I really don't know. I really don't know what his head is. It's because it
Hmm.
seems he's playing like he doesn't want to be there, or he's playing like he doesn't know what wearing that white shirt of Real Madrid means. And had it, say this is his first year, I'll say, okay, no, he's adjusted to the level, he's adjusted to the pressure. Once a guy that's really, he's been there, he's done that, he's done everything at Real Madrid. He's been successful, he's had his ups and downs on that club, he's found his way back. But I think well, currently he's playing as bad as he was in his first couple of years. I remember when Benzema had that infamous got
Hmm.
caught, got caught saying in the tournament that he's playing against us. That's what he's been doing. He's been playing against Real Madrid for the best last those 2 months. Then I look at the manager. Okay, do you drop this player? Like, is he undroppable? Do you drop him to get him to understand that this is not good enough? It's a very weird one. And when you still then you get Valverde, who's being shunted at right back just to for whatever reason, I don't understand. I'm sure that better players or better options they can play at right back, even a kid from that academy. Even guys like hell, play Tommy at right back because
Or
I'll tell you for
or
no
yeah,
no
or
you play
you can have Frank Garcia play that. He can do a
no I know
job.
play Tommy at right back because I'll tell you for free he's not playing midfield well. So play my right back. Maybe that's his calling. Maybe that's his position. But with Germany, it's not the same. I don't expect him a to put a tough resistance to Barcelona's match to the title. I expect them to have even like you said that they have the advantage of no Champions League football. They can prepare more. But I don't think preparation is one of these problems. I think that preparation, that problems are application to what they're trying to do on the pitch. The running, the movements, they don't look like a team that knows what they're trying to do for 90 minutes half the time. And I think watching them this season has been one of my biggest displeasure this season. It's not fun watching that team. And I say that as a Chelsea fan, it's been very disappointing watching him. It's been a real slog watching that team. But that's it. I think
So what's
the
your
you
prediction
the
for winning the La Liga?
I think my prediction has been my prediction for the past I think 4 or 5 months now. I think it's Barca has to lose. I'll be shocked if Barca will lose it, but there's still that possibility that somebody can for a month or for a couple of weeks just do enough when the big games are coming ahead to get victories, but I don't see them. I really don't see them doing much because it seems like it is just waiting for that next refresh button to be hit. Be it the manager,
Yes.
be it some players moving on, or some players coming in. They're waiting for that shake up in that club. So I still believe it's Barca to
All
um
right.
from Spanish title we go to the English Premier League. But this time we're not talking about title, we're talking about probably the only exciting or the only
Why we're not talking
battle
about
that's
title again in the Premier League? Can you remind the
title has been
viewers?
no the title has been wrapped up for it's been wrapped up for months now. It's just I
Oh,
think at this point
really?
just yeah it's not really a
And the
perspective
best
for
in the best league of the world in the world, the title has been wrapped up so a couple of months ago. Oh, educate me. So where's it headed?
no I think any of our viewers or listeners that have paid attention for the last 3 months know it's going Liverpool are going to win the title. This is not dramatic or this does not represent how tough or how bad the Premier League is because it's just been a year
Mm,
where Liverpool, out of all the teams, Liverpool is one of the teams that has emerged with fewer problems than the rest of the other bunch. A lot of teams after Liverpool have a lot of issues, all the way down from Arsenal down to the three bottom teams that are going to get relegated. Arsenal don't have, they've had injuries, they've faced some, they've been on the other side of some bunkers refereeing decision. Man City have been bad, Chelsea have been they've been middle of bad, Tottenham bad, Newcastle inconsistent, Villa inconsistent, Nottingham Forest good, good for what's for what they are right now, but still not enough. It's been a very I think it's been a very open Premier League season. That's when you take out Liverpool and the three other teams, because you have clubs like United and Tottenham that are way down in the Premier League fighting for the 17th position. So it's
That's
been a
absolutely
very
correct.
so it's been a very open season. But we're going to go in on the battle for the top five Champions League places. And how do you see that shaping up? So who do you who do you think what are the teams you think are going to finish with the top five this season that qualifies for the Champions League and
I
why?
think obviously, Liverpool Arsenal is guaranteed. I think Man City will make it there.
Yeah,
Um, I think Chelsea will make it there against all odds. They'll probably just make it, and I think hmm, hmm, my heart goes to Nottingham Forest for the stress and for the effort and for the fact that they've been in this position for such a long time. I know 6 games can be a lot for the kind of season that they have. But I just think Newcastle has to play European football next season or they lose the sack. So
okay.
my
So
prediction will be Liverpool, Arsenal, um in without any particular order, Man City, Chelsea, and Newcastle.
Newcastle, okay. So Nottingham Forest, Aston Villa is out.
Yes, they'll miss out like just a
Okay,
bit.
okay, okay. That's interesting. Well,
And
what, why?
why I feel so is just because the pedigree of those clubs, regardless of whatever it is that is going on right now in terms of I know especially for Chelsea it's been beyond roller coaster.
Yeah,
It can be
yeah,
quite
yeah.
disappointing. And I know a lot of people will be surprised to hear that I think that they would make it, but
I
I
am.
think they
Okay,
would. I think they would. If you check the fixtures that they have in the next 6 fixtures that they have, it's not.
it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yes, yes, it's not particularly easy, but the problem is that Chelsea hasn't suffered against big teams. They've suffered against teams that they should be beating.
Okay, 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 okay. That's that's one way to look at it. That's one way to look at it.
So
But
they've suffered
okay,
against teams that they should be beating. And I'm also more on the side that the other two, Aston Villa, Aston Villa might as well as even lose their next game because they will be hungover with the high in the expectation of what could have been in
the
Champions League.
next the next game is Man City, and also I think that's the beautiful or the funny what's shaping up to something that's going to be very exciting in this
Hmm.
top five battle is a lot of teams in this involved in this battle they play each other in the
Hmm.
weeks leading up to the end of the season. So you've
Hmm.
got Man City Aston Villa next. Chelsea still have to play Newcastle and Nottingham Forest away. I believe Aston Villa and Newcastle still have to play Man City. So
Hmm.
there's there's potential for there will be a lot of drop points across the board in these teams. But like I think you're very okay. Okay, just a quick one on Chelsea. Just I saw me on Chelsea. And because I think before this pod started, you asked me like, oh, we've not talked about Chelsea in a long time. And I think our listeners have not heard my views about Chelsea recently because we've been more Champions League and La Liga focused for. And a lot has happened. Maybe a lot has happened in the last 2 weeks in the Premier League. I almost feel I'm not sure if Chelsea can make it
No,
in the
I can
Champions League.
understand the skepticism, but I'm saying it that I think Chelsea will make it, and you can tell by just a couple of things. For example, if they lost that game to Fulham,
That would have
I
been
would
it.
say
That would have been
I would say that would have been it. But now you see the way they rallied through. So there's quality
yeah,
in this Chelsea team, right?
yeah,
However, in a different edition where we plan to unpack transfer and what should happen for each club going forward. But
yeah,
looking at Chelsea on paper and looking at the idea that Enzo is trying to bring to that team, right? It's not it's not a lost cause. Now,
yeah.
also leaning on the fact that other teams like this, I feel Nottingham would crumble under. I feel Nottingham will crumble under the pressure. Nottingham Forest,
Okay.
what will crack them out is the pressure, and also with the fact that this is the fairy tale. If we get it, we get it. There's no KPI marked around Nottingham making it into the top 6. As a matter of fact, if Nottingham secures top, in fact, some people had them poised for relegation at the start of the season. If we want to go all the way back,
Okay.
right? And now
Okay.
I look at Chelsea, and I feel like the momentum has been trending upward. Now there's the distraction of the Europa Conference League, but they pretty much don't even play their first team there if they don't have to, right? And that might change a little bit now that things are getting into the business end of that competition, the semi-final, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But I still think they have enough um, to just about get 2-1s, 1-2, 3-1s, those kind of results, get a couple of draw, and then just about be the last guys to make it into that top five.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Because I think in terms of my issues with Chelsea, it's because I don't know like get to listeners. I'm very honest when it comes to this. I don't let my of course I want certain things to happen, but at the same time I can tell when something's gonna happen when it happen because I can see it. I can see there's a feeling, there's a vibe you get, the same vibe I get for Barcelona when I see they have that vibe. The same vibe I get from Real Madrid. I can say, okay, something's not right here. This is not thinking. And my senses with Chelsea is there's more out of all the squads involved in this pile for this top four, this top five situation. I feel Chelsea are the club in the biggest turmoil. That's they have more dysfunction. There's no harmony at the club, and that's not just on the pitch, all on the pitch, where you have situations and where which where the fans are not, or seems majority of the fans are not pulling in the direction where the club or the players on the pitch are trying to go. And what I mean by that is, I point to the incident last weekend, or 2 weeks ago, the last home game against Ipswich Town, where large portion of the Chelsea fan base at home were booing their own players, and that's something as a Chelsea fan that does not right to me. There's no way I can defend that. Can you hear me? You back? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, so I'm talking about how the last home game, Chelsea, large portion of Chelsea fans were booing their own team and how they were trying to go about playing out from the back or whatnot. And I get they had this shocking uh, they had this shocking start to the game when they go 2 goals down against the troubled Ipswich Town. But at the same time, I always feel when your team is down or your team is struggling, that's when the club or that's when the players on the pitch need the fans in the stadium the most. And for the reaction that Chelsea got on that day from the fans in the stadium, that doesn't help matters because it's counterproductive to there's one thing to go after like to make your feelings go after during halftime after the game. I understand that. But to actively boo during the game, during the course of the game, it's it doesn't help the team. There's and I've been going back and forth with different Chelsea fans I know telling me like, oh, this, like that's I feel that is fundamentally against the spirit of the game. Boo your team during the game, and I feel for that reason, it's almost like say for example, I see not for example now. Like I said, they deserve Champions League football because they've been consistent for large parts of the season. The story from a narrative point of view makes sense because it's a team everybody tips for relegation. They found a way to be in this situation, which is nice. Newcastle have been a romantic season, their first trophy in almost 70 years. It's nice. They have that momentum. Man City and Man City. Aston Villa have a very good team, good coach. They were in the Champions League this year. They want to get back there. But with Chelsea, it's the disconnect is just so much. I don't see how they can get the good results that puts them in that Champions League position this season, unless I don't know what happens. But my gut feeling is telling me that Chelsea don't make it, and it's not like obviously I don't want that to happen. At the same time, I want it to be consequences for bad decision making because what I don't want to happen
No,
is say
no, sorry that if I have to interject a little bit. Like, regardless, the consequences for bad decision making goes from top until the last guy on the pitch. So who's going to
yeah
action on those consequences? Because, for example, the
no
board have not been particularly covered in glory. You can argue about the coaching team. You can argue about the quality of the players being provided to them by the coaching team. I think
All this is true.
Chelsea has more off the field issues than even on the field issues. So, and right now, I believe that if Enzo is talking to his team and saying, you know what, it doesn't matter if I'm going to be here next season. It doesn't matter which of you will be here next season. What matters is that we go next season and we give ourselves an opportunity to contest for more. And that in
Yeah.
itself can happen. If you want to go through Chelsea's fixtures for the next 6 games and tell me who they play home and away, I can easily tell you some of the teams that they would struggle to navigate and those that they
Okay.
probably would
Okay.
get a
Okay.
decent point.
Okay. Okay.
Because yeah,
Let's okay.
let's
Let's
do
run it.
that. Hmm.
It's they have Everton next. I
Yeah.
believe after Everton is I think it's Liverpool,
Yeah.
then Manchester United,
Hmm.
and there's Newcastle in there somewhere. But our last game definitely is against Nottingham Forest.
Okay.
So
So
so so
against
so so
against
that's
Everton.
15. So
Hmm.
that's 15 games. So that's 5 games. 15
No,
points
no.
eventually.
So there's Enzo. So there's Newcastle. There's Everton. Okay. There is Everton. There is Man United. There
Liverpool at home.
is there is Liverpool. Who's at home? Liverpool.
Uh, Chelsea at home.
Chelsea's at home, and then there is Nottingham Forest. So
Away. And Newcastle away.
and then there's Newcastle away. Yeah. So I think they play Everton, then Newcastle, then Man United. Is that correct?
Let me just let me make sure. Let's get this right. Okay, so the next game is Everton, then Liverpool at home. That's they have two back-to-back home games.
Mm-hmm.
Then after
Mm-hmm.
the Liverpool game, they go away to Newcastle,
Mm-hmm.
then then Manchester United, and they finish at Nottingham Forest
Is Manchester United at home or away?
at home.
So they have 3 home games and
Two away
they
games.
have 3 home games and 2 away games. So the game against Liverpool they would win. Chelsea
Okay.
would win against Liverpool. At that point, title is done, delivered. Liverpool have gone celebrating already.
Okay. I see the logic. Also, this is a Chelsea team that failed to beat an Ipswich Town home and away this season. I understand it doesn't.
No, but
But
that's the
if you
thing.
know,
Those are the teams that have given Chelsea problem. Those are the
that's
teams
just
that have given Chelsea problem. Literally, those are the kind of teams that have given Chelsea the problem. That is where there is this tension against the game for me, if I tell you your biggest challenge in this top five, in this last 5 fixtures is Everton. You
Everton.
you
Yeah.
get you
Okay.
get a good result from Everton, you know that you have 4 more games to play. I believe who is making it to be done at the point of when you're playing Nottingham Forest.
Okay.
On that last
Okay.
game of the season, you would have known whether or
Okay.
not you're catching that train at that point
Okay. Okay.
because
No, it's
Newcastle plays Man City, you're gonna get the result against United. I'll tell you that. You get the result against United.
no. Again, let's
Because
and also let's.
United focus
Oh
is
yeah.
gonna be on
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
the Europa League.
Probably.
So you're gonna
Yes.
get the result against Newcastle United and Liverpool. And if you navigate properly against Everton, you get the results. Your biggest struggle will be against Newcastle and Nottingham Forest.
Okay. Okay. Well. I'm happy you have a lot of confidence, and I
If,
think
if you
you've
if you
gained it.
if you get the result in those 3 games, you're gonna be in.
Yeah.
That's it.
I think. Yeah. I think if you've gamed it out quite perfectly. Also, I said that I think it's also important to look at the bigger picture and the bigger consequences. That.
Yes, and but that's something for the summer. That's not for now. I don't
Yeah.
think anybody in Chelsea right now should be concerning themselves with
No.
that.
But
Because
no. No.
even as free flying, just for context, even as free flying as Barcelona is right now, or as PSG is right now, even Inter Milan, they still need to go to the drawing board
A lot of teams
pre-summer.
do. A lot of
Yeah,
teams do.
pre-summer, and then they do a lot of cleaning. And I said this off the record yesterday when I was speaking to another another football analyst, and I said to them, Chelsea is close enough to making a super team. And I-
Yeah,
and the debate was, what do you mean? And I said, if you give me a second to dissect it, you probably see this logic in it. For example, I think you guys have an European winning midfield. Your midfield is not your problem, at least for the
honestly,
first 11. If you have a
no,
pair of
that's
Casado, Enzo, and you allow Kopama to play as an attacking central attacking midfielder, your midfield is as good as it gets. You can contest any game. You have a World Cup winner there. You have one player who has the ability to become a generational talent in Caicedo. He's one of the best that I've seen right now that can play central or anything beneath the central position in midfield right now. You have a Cole Palmer that if you encourage him by bringing the right cast around him, you're good. What you then need to do is go into the market and replace your front three.
and
And
that's what the problem.
when I mean
Yeah,
replace your front three, I'm not saying go on a flamboyant spending spree. There's Ademola Lookman that is available for grabs for less than 40 million euros. Chelsea should be prioritizing that deal. There is Osimhen who wants to leave the Turkish league and come to a more prominent league and come to a more prominent club. Chelsea should be prioritizing getting that guy. Keep your ego aside. You need a striker that knows how to
yeah,
find the back of the net. Jackson should be an
that's also
understudy at this point of his career right now. He shouldn't be your main guy. He is he has the
no,
potential to be that guy. He has the
okay,
potential to be that guy, but he shouldn't be your main guy right now if you want to be challenging for titles.
okay,
Nothing against
okay.
Jackson.
And I know this will come from left field because I've been very fond of this player, and I seem to be one of the few people who seem to value him. For this, I think Chelsea should sell Jackson, and it's I think it was is this week this past week per se. It was more the Conference League game played against maybe I was at home. But Jackson plays for 5 minutes. He gets subbed up at halftime to get rested for the weekend game. But while on the bench, he's on while on the bench while the game is still going on. You can see him on his phone doing whatever on his phone during the game. That for me sends the wrong message. But also, I feel there's one trait that Jackson lacks, and I feel you cannot be an excellent footballer without that trait, especially as an attacking player. He's ball striker, he's poor.
I said it over and over again.
And you get to a point where it's either you get big guys like big guns in the Osimhen's, even the Sesco's. Well, no, not Sesco. I think I'm like Tegan, Osimhen, Quakers, those kind of guys are coming. Either they come and take that burden off him, or they come and or they light a fire under his belly that pushes him to improve his game, to improve as a footballer. Either of those situations is good, but I don't think he should be Chelsea's first or second choice striker next season
Yeah,
because
he can be the second choice striker. To be honest,
not.
there's quite some talent to work with there. There's some games where
Yeah, yeah,
you get to that point
he
of
has
the
a lot.
season.
He has a lot.
Yes, he
I
has a
think it is.
lot. He has a lot, but but again, like I feel like Chelsea fans got carried away due to the pairing of what he and Kopama were able to deliver together at the start of the season. Now,
No,
if you are
but
moving on to next season, right? The biggest part of it, if you, I believe you can lock out. You get if Chelsea becomes really serious about this transfer, you can get both Osimhen and Lookman in, especially if you guys make it through to be able to play Champions League football. You can convince those guys to come over.
yeah, and even Osimhen, I know he's going to have a lot of support on the market the market, but I don't think Champions League might be especially particularly for him. I don't think it might be that big of a swing where he goes because he spent this season in Turkey playing the Turkish league and playing Europa League. So I feel if the project is good, say a club producing the rights financial package, obviously, the project, the understanding of what the club is trying to do. Also, the feeling that he can go to a club and become, because it feels, I get the feeling, again, it's also a very emotional player where
Uh-huh.
he's, he plays better when he's
It
fully
feels
invested.
loved. It feels like when it
Exactly.
feels loved, when it feels like the crowd is behind
Invested,
him, when there is faith in
exactly.
him. Yeah.
That's true. But also, but at the same time, Jackson has suffered because of lack of that way. He hasn't felt it love at Chelsea, and I don't know to what extent that has
But he
affected
hasn't
the game.
ended. He hasn't ended, to be honest. The games where he's played
Yeah,
well, games where he has played
no,
well, but even in
I,
those
I,
games, you can still see
I
like,
disagree.
oops, how do you
Yeah,
strike the
no,
ball like this?
yeah, yeah.
Oops,
See, yeah,
how do you make multiple touches there? Oops, why are you bearing down in front of goal and you're looking over your shoulder waiting for a supporting cast?
but
Like,
yeah, that's again, that's true. But at the same time, that's why I say Chelsea are in a state of there's no there's a disconnect there somewhere between all across every
it's
aspect,
just
fans, the players, the coach. Because do you think a player that's going through a troubled time and with a lot of under the spotlight, a player like Jackson's under or has been, do you think the fact that you know your own fan, whether right or wrong, on your back or strongly criticized, do you think that helps you, or do you think that helps you elevate your game? Just out
no,
of curiosity.
no, but it actually depends on the players. We've seen it go
No,
both ways. We've
and
actually
that's
seen it go both ways. We've seen players where they feel didn't get enough love from their fans and they played themselves back into form. I mean, we've seen it to a point where Real Madrid booed Cristiano at some point. You remember that
yeah. No,
Bernabeu.
well, okay,
Yeah,
okay, yeah, yeah. No, no, but wait,
but I feel like it's that's too high of a
that's
comparison.
an
But
extreme.
I'm that's
That's
an
an
extreme.
extreme.
I'm just saying that that's too high. That's a comparison that you don't want to go down that route. But I'm just making a point that we've seen players
Okay,
being,
okay,
you
okay.
know, we see
I'll,
Diego with the same thing with Diego Costa, Diego
no,
Costa too.
okay, but I'll ask you one question. Do you
Mhm.
think that players need to feel the love to sometimes
Absolutely,
help them
absolutely,
perform better?
absolutely,
And
absolutely,
and
absolutely.
and again, so it's almost like a chicken and egg
Absolutely.
situation. It's almost like a
But
chicken
this, yeah, no, but these days it's becoming more of a thing because the tickets prices have gone up. The entrance
that's
fee to
true.
come into those stadium have gone up. And again, the congestion in the fixtures have become such that they see you more often than not.
Yeah,
So
you're
if you're
playing
crap, they
the game
see
is being
more,
more.
exactly. So if you're
Yeah,
crap, they see more of those craps consistently, and that gets them irritated, right? So
yeah.
players need to know at what point where they need to, and also it helps when you have a supporting cast or main cast that can help decompress that. I'll tell you, for example, Barcelona were very, very upset with Ferran Torres last season. A lot of Barca fans were not pleased with Ferran Torres last season. And this season, he's been taken off the pitch. There's some Barca fans that are actively grumbling that they want him to stay a bit longer. The same thing goes to Rafinha. Some point last season, a lot of people are like, this guy cannot be the man. How can he be a Brazilian winger? He cannot be the man. And right now, Rafinha cannot go 2 games without being on the starting sheet, and you won't have conversations in the media. So we've
Can
seen players
he
turn this around.
can he beat a man still?
Well, he can beat the keep he can beat the goalkeeper. That's
He
for
can
sure.
finish.
He
He
can
can
beat
finish.
the goalkeeper. That's for sure.
He can finish.
So
He can finish. Okay, no, okay, no, okay. Well, I think let's find out on Chelsea, because I just feel the biggest issue with Chelsea is not the coach. It's not particularly the players.
no, he's part of it.
It's yeah, no, no, no,
Let's
no,
not
no.
give him a free pass. I think he's part of it because again, like I said,
But who's in
with
charge of that?
coaches.
Wait. But who's in charge of that decision? Where this is Jackson's second season at the club. This is who's made that decision to go for 2 seasons running to go with Jackson as the number one striker at that club. That's not Jackson. That's not the coach. So that's generally my problem is where the guys who make this decision, the sporting directors or the football operators. Well, if you write Chelsea's issues on paper, it's been the same issue for the last 2 3 years. A
But
striker, a
we've
goalkeeper,
also
and centre backs.
Yeah, but we've also seen that in clubs like PSG, for example. They had issues that
Mm,
lingered for years, and then you had a coach with
For
the
PS,
personality and the character to go in and
yeah,
say, I don't want these guys. I know you just signed these guys less than a year ago. Like Colomani
no,
was
well,
out before Colomani was out before anybody can remember his official number for PSG.
I know.
And Asensio, despite being a Spaniard, like different kind of things.
Yeah,
We've
I know,
seen it
but
happen,
I
and then
know
there's some coaches that will come. Even this guy, Gonzalez Ramos, the Portuguese striker.
Jonathan Ramos, yeah.
Yeah, this guy came in and he's like, this guy doesn't fit into my project. He's not gonna start. And then there are
Okay,
coaches who have got that personality and they can communicate it adequately to the board, and then you see that take effect. If Enzo is not voicing out a dissatisfaction in Jackson's
but it's,
performance,
but it's not.
it's
Yeah,
not the
I know.
board's responsibility to start moving the needle there.
No, but I think it's literally now. I think it's literally our job to look at what the coach is saying, and look at you have different metrics, you have different target points you have to hit. Okay, if you can see Jackson is struggling, and particularly if not the striker for Chelsea, I should expect that guys are high up in that football hierarchy can see that out, can see the problem. And also, it's not okay. Forget Jackson for a moment. The fact that you're going to the season, not once, but 2 seasons running, with only one fit recognized striker, senior striker, that is a worry. And when you mentioned PSG, it's also important. You said the project, the Paris Saint-Germain project was different for the last 2 years. It was more. We all know what Paris Saint-Germain was as a club off the pitch, where who owns them, who funds that club, and the goals behind funding that club. And I don't see it as a coincidence after the World Cup, the last World Cup, the likes of Messi, Neymar, Mbappe have all left their club, and that club has gone in a different direction. Because I see, to me, that was a more soft power being used through football to basically spot wash certain people's reputations. But that's politics. But when you look at the football project, okay, PSG still bought 2 strikers 2 years ago, Gonzalo Ramos and Colomani. These 2 guys didn't work out. The coach found a solution with Dembele, Bracola, Desiree Doué, that whole configuration at the same time. But that's still there's someone responsible to bring all that talent into the club. I'm talking about Bracola, Desiree Doué, and Cavadona now. So on Chelsea's side, the guys who've been responsible for bringing the talent in. Again, let's not forget this is we're talking about more than a billion spent on players. And when you look at the
No,
talent,
just so that I save you some energy and just to let you know that we're on the same page on this.
yeah. So
I'm not exonerating the board for, I mean, for example, how do you justify Osime, I'm sorry, not Osime, Olise playing in Crystal Palace just a couple of stone throw from you, getting on a plane and going to Munich, playing
okay,
in
exactly.
Bayern, and
There's also
this is not a
there's,
German player. This is a French
yeah,
player. He was up for grabs. How do you justify you not making that purchase? And it's not like they needed to break
and
the bank.
yeah, and
They
yeah,
didn't break the bank. And this
and
is a
again,
player that tore the Premier League apart the
yeah,
last season.
but there's also but again, it's important you mentioned listen, because that's a player at Chelsea for 2 years where in contact with, and for whatever reason, they couldn't just get that deal done. To me, that's a worry where you can't. My faith, I don't think they can make deals of that level. The Osimhen, so these those kind of big deals that change big clubs. I don't think they can get those deals done. I think they are more comfortable in the Jackson situation when they go to Villarreal, they go to Man City because you have this relationship between Man City, the chase scout, and you know the players you go by Kopama. If you look at guys like Liam Delap, who was from Man City, other guys like Lafayette as well from Man City at the same time. So that's where they feel comfortable. Because to shift the needle, you need to go get big players. Like I think about Osimhen, Ademina Lookman, those kind of guys. And I don't think they have the talent. Not necessarily. I don't think they have the facility to facilitate those kind of deals that are readily players that are ready to improve the club right now. Because again, over a billion spent, and the talents that or the lack of talent at that team is still worrying at this point. Where you just said earlier that if they can improve the front line, front three, and this is after so much spent again, and at the same time, it's not a lot of people will put some of emphasis on the coach. I don't think it's the coaching issue. The coach has his fault and same as well, but I don't think a coach changes Jackson's fortune or Sanchez. A coach cannot make Sanchez a better goalkeeper. A coach cannot make
No,
Chelsea's
actually, I no, I can argue against that. I've seen coaches who come in
not
and
Sanchez, not no no no
I'm not talking of
not.
Sanchez, but I've seen coaches come in
I'm
and
talking about Sanchez.
they've tremendously increased they've tremendously increased the productivity of their players. They've maximized the players, the strength.
Yeah,
Sanchez's lapses might be coming as a result of the system he's playing under.
nah, nah, nah,
Sanchez,
nah, no,
I mean,
no, 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 no,
and
no,
also
no, no,
Sanchez's no, but at
no,
the
yeah, yeah,
same
no,
time, at the same time, the
not
coach did
Sanchez.
not buy Sanchez. This
Yeah,
coach did not
but
sanction
yeah,
the sales of Sanchez. We met him there. This coach, as a
yeah,
matter of fact, has not bought his own kind of players, if we're being very objective. Most of the things that he has used are the players that the clubs have delivered to him.
yeah, that
He
yeah,
hasn't gone
that's
out and shopped his own kind of players. So he
I know,
can be in that conversation when
but
he's able to get the team to the Champions League. If he gets the
yeah,
team to the Champions League, he can be in that conversation and say, now we are here, and these are the things we need to do to move the needle to stay here.
okay,
As
okay,
opposed to as opposed to floating somewhere in the Conference League and asking the club to go spend 80 million on a striker. That's
but
not
no, yeah, but
logical.
yeah, the coach is not the reason why the club is in the Conference League. The bad recruitment, and again, you forget that the same people that recruit the players that also pick and
You
select
know,
the coach
I
to come
said
in at the same
something.
time.
I said something
So,
when Amori was going to United, and it's pretty much the same situation. I said when Amori was going to United, I said this guy is not going to change anything in United's fortune. What is just going to give United players and the board is a fresh air of okay, there was a guy who was wallowing without knowing where he was going. The fans were upset with this guy, and they just want a new face.
okay,
Amori
okay,
put his neck there to be slaughtered. Now, if Amori finds a way to win, I think it's the Europa League that United
yeah,
is
Europa League.
competing for. Let's just say Amori finds a way and wins the Europa League. Amori is going to be knocking at the door and saying, hey, you know what? I have 11 players I don't want to see in this club anymore. And I have another 10 that I think you guys need to bring in. Otherwise, whatever ambition that you're telling me, it would not be my fault that we don't make it.
Yeah, but I said,
But the point I'm
no,
making
but
is, but if Amori ends up winning nothing, doesn't win the Europa League,
but
doesn't
the club still
guarantee to play in
needs,
Europe, right?
yeah,
See, they might need to have a change, but they're not going to be banking on him to have that change. They'll be making bold decisions knowing that, okay, we don't know the winning pedigree of this player, of this coach, and we're not going to be buying players around his appetite because there are no
okay,
guarantees that we're going that long journey with him. And it's pretty much the
okay,
same situation with Enzo Maresca. If if
no,
Enzo if Enzo delivers Chelsea Champions League football next season, Enzo is going to go there and request for his type of players.
but okay, but the on the flip side to that, don't you think? I understand what you're saying. Okay, there's a big if a coach shows proof of concept, so say I'm winning,
Hmm.
then okay, you can buy into his project. Okay, get better players, or you can go and make the necessary needs,
Hmm.
or you can tailor the squad to the coaches that are liking. But at the same time, it's also this, or I believe that every year, when it comes to the transfer window, when you have that transfer window opportunities, you go into the market with the general belief to improve your squad. We can agree on that, right?
Absolutely.
And I don't think in the last 2 years, multiple transfer windows, I don't think Chelsea have gone into the window. Either they've not shown, or they've not shown enough desire or enough understanding of how to improve the squad. And that's where my problem
Uh,
is. Because it's not
and, and
because wait,
and I agree with that as well. Just so you
because
know, I
again it's
agree
not
with that.
yeah, because again you can say okay the coach needs to do this before you can get this. Which but at the same time, or the club needs this. You understand now where there's a reason why like we talked about like a lot. That's why you say like I was against for Barca. I didn't see those keep making sense. But I think that you were like, no, this we have to get this because a club like Barca needs Lewandowski
Yes.
because Lewandowski in Barcelona helps us get our objectives. And Chelsea as a club, this big should always have objectives. Champions, I think it shouldn't be just Champions League football. It should be challenging for titles, challenging for cup competitions, and being an overall good team. But that's not down to the coach. Of course, that's not just down to the coach. But a lot of it comes down to recruitment. Um, like you see, with Barca's failing in recent years up until this season, you can see a lot of it is down to the coaching. But then again, it's also also is more down to poor recruitment and bad signings and mismanagement of funds. And that's what I feel has happened at Chelsea. It's not just there's some good players at Chelsea. They are very good players. There's still guys like Santos on loan, Esteval that's coming soon. Those guys are they have promise. But I say that if you can't get, I'll die on this hill. You cannot. There's no amount of coaching that can improve Sanchez. Well, because let's not forget, at the time Sanchez comes to Chelsea, he was the third choice, was the third choice goalkeeper at Brighton. So he leaves a club like Brighton where he's not starting games, comes to Chelsea and becomes Chelsea's number one. That is a worry for me. And it's not so okay, he's gone there, he's gone up a level, he's improved, shown his ability. But if not, he's shown that if not, he's probably one of the worst goalkeepers in the Premier League. Do you think Sanchez starts for a Nottingham Forest or an Aston Villa or a Newcastle? I don't think so. And these are teams that in the same position as you right now have stronger goalkeepers, and you spend so much money and you're still in this situation where the team has not necessarily evolved. I understand it's like we see a bit of time that Caicedo is looking better. Caicedo is looking like he's showing why you spend 100 million on him. Even Enzo Fernandez, even Cucurella as well. But at the same time, you have those players, but you still it's not enough because I just feel if I think you're very you sound more convinced Chelsea more convinced than I am about Chelsea making top four, top five. But because I see maybe probably because I see the problems first, and but at the same time I still because my biggest worry and it was my worry last season when we got to the Carabao Cup final. Because sometimes when if you win and you become successful, it almost validates your overall approach.
Yeah, yeah,
And I feel
it
it does
just makes it water on the bridge.
yeah, and I feel Chelsea's approach does not need validating because I don't think it's good. And I'm not a person that judges based just off one season. This is
Hmm.
if you audit it across 3 years, about I think five transfer windows they've had, is not good enough. And unless that changes, I don't think we'll see any significant change regarding Chelsea on the pitch,
Uh,
regardless of
I, and
regardless of the coach.
you and I are on the same page on this.
Okay,
Remember, the biggest caveat I made was if Chelsea wants to go up the level, they have to go in and they have to buy certain players. Now you have to have a balance between shopping for the gold pack and shopping for a couple of silver packs, as opposed to what Chelsea had done in the past when they've gone on a shopping spree for bronze or rusted metal. They just shopped, they got a lot of collection of bronzes and rusted metals, and you're expecting magic out of it. Chelsea had no business buying Joao Felix. Chelsea had no business getting a transfer conversation for for Jadon's for
Jadon
excuse me
Sancho, yeah,
Jadon Sancho. You guys had no business. You guys were
yeah,
struggling to let go of wage eaters
Sterling.
like Sterling.
No, we still have Sterling
You
still on the books.
exactly. You had
And I feel that that
even
whole
Pedro.
situation is
Yeah, even Pedro Neto for the amount spent on him, it's almost more
yeah,
than what was spent on on getting Kvaratskhelia to PSG. There's money thrown away there. There is money thrown away. Like literally, you just pick through the squad and you've seen quite a number of them. Chukwuemeka going to Borussia Dortmund. That is a guy that you can keep in the squad. He can help you in games like this. The money sold in the money made in selling this other guy, Caliga, that went to Atletico Madrid,
no, that's fair.
forcing forcing that guy out, forcing that guy out the way that the club had forced him out, only to keep some of these other names that we've mentioned earlier. Doesn't really show a project. It doesn't show a project.
Yeah,
It doesn't show an holistic end-to-end plan.
and
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 that is exactly what needs to happen
and
for
and the
teams to
thing
go
with
forward.
and I think a lot of football fans. I think this is last on Chelsea because we still have a few more to go. I
Hmm.
think the I think nowadays, especially with a lot of football fans and a lot of football observers, it's a lot of people seem to dislike the word project. But I genuinely believe that's a lot of a good club should needs a project. But the problem
Mm-hmm.
is if fans can't see a winning project,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes like some fans will give it a year, 2 years, maybe one window, one coach. But when you see multiple coaches,
Mm-hmm.
multiple years, multiple transfer windows, expensive transfer signings,
Mm-hmm.
and the needle has not been moved. That's a
Mm-hmm.
big worry. And I feel regardless of how Chelsea finish this season, there needs to be a change in direction. Because I'm not one, I'm not someone that's going to say, oh, the owners need to go, because that's just foolish. I don't think these owners are going anywhere. But at the same time, they can still change their direction in terms of their decision making and find ideal solutions to what the club needs right now to help improve the squad going forward. It, and at the same time, you can also find that the manager is not suitable for the role and you move him on, get somebody else. But that's more failing on your side because you brought in this manager at the same time. So again, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. But I think let's move on. So I think I've got a question for you. I think this is a section we're going to be doing quite recently going forward. Whenever we record, we ask each other who's been our best team, best team we've seen on the weekend or match day, and our best player. So, Charlie, Kingsley, this weekend, who's your best? What was the best team you saw this weekend? Hello? Since I've lost my friend. I just do mine. I think my best team performance this past week. You there?
Yeah, I'm back. Um,
Yeah.
do you hear
Can
me?
you hear me? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I, I'm not quite sure what happened, but I mean, my prediction again for the top four challenge to just call it out there would be I expect I mean besides I mean top five in this case because we're talking European Football Champions League to be specific. I expect Chelsea, Man City, and Newcastle to just about make it through.
yeah. I think I think we're having
I'm back.
some. You're back?
Like, yeah, I'm back.
Okay.
Did you hear my prediction for the top five?
I did, but just what is it again? I think it was Man City, well, Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City, Chelsea, and
And
Newcastle.
Newcastle. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
Newcastle.
Nottingham and Aston Villa will just fall off shortly.
Yeah, I think I like. I think Newcastle. They're one of my favorite teams to watch. They have a lot of they have a lot going for them. I have a hot take on Newcastle that I'll drop before the start of next season because I feel I think they have potential for a title challenge in their future.
Yeah, very possible. The coach is very brilliant. The
Because
project
they
seems
have,
like it's throttling forward, but I feel like this season they've been significantly inconsistent. They've lost
yeah,
games that you go in with an expectation for them to win or at least draw.
yeah,
The squad depth is lacking. I mean, there's brilliance from Gordon, from Isaac, from even Jolinton has had a great season, but you just feel like there's an opportunity for them to be in the market and getting players like an Asensio or Rashford, those kind of players that can come in and make a difference
oh,
from the
Rashford,
bench.
uh, uh,
Yeah,
Rashford to Newcastle. That's a shout. But yeah,
yeah,
I think we'll talk more about that in the postseason when we talk about different transfers and different clubs. So
yeah.
Kingsley, who was the best player you saw this past weekend?
Um, well, from La Liga point of view, I would go Boca Iglesias. It's
Okay,
never
good.
going to be easy to score a hat trick about in away to Barcelona. Despite how simple those goals are, it's a lot to keep the composure and bury those chances. So he's got a shout there. Um, in the Premier League, I haven't seen any particular standout player this week. Um, to be honest, there's
Yeah.
no standout player that
Okay.
I've seen this week in the Premier League.
Okay. I think
Um,
I have.
in Serie A, there's been, I'm thinking again, Serie A, there was no standout performer as well. Bundesliga, Bundesliga. I think Gurasi too. Gurasi makes a good shout
Yeah,
there.
grass.
I think he had
Yeah.
a good assist
Okay. Yeah. Just a bit on grass as well. But
because you said this week, right? Yeah.
yeah. But I think I think it's because there are very few strikers that have shown the goal scoring prowess he has shown in the last 2 years. But for some reason, it seems to always be outside conversations of the top strikers operating in Europe.
Overlooked.
Why do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems because it's a very, like you said again, it's like he had a very good Champions League campaign last year and this year as well. He scored a lot of goals in the Bundesliga. Just like I think there are a lot of clubs in the Premier League or even outside the Premier League in Italy and whatnot, even in Spain that could really do to a player like Gracia in their squad because he's a very very capable goal scorer. I believe his hat trick against Barcelona was
Oh yeah.
I think it was right foot, left foot, and a header. I'm correct. I
And
think so.
did he get a header?
Yeah, I think you got a header.
I
That's
don't know if it's a perfect hat trick. Now that I think about
yeah.
it, yeah. Yeah, I think he
I
got a
think
header
so.
from the corner, the set piece.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah, the second
but
goal was a header. The first goal was a right penalty. Yep,
yeah,
I think you're right. I think it's a
I'll,
perfect hat trick for
yeah.
Guirassy. Um,
Because very unique finisher. But I think my best. I think I have two, and they
yeah,
are both in the Premier League. But I think
okay.
one of them is Brian Mbeumo. I think he's finally coming to his own this season.
Yeah, I think
Where
Remo,
and after the departure of Antonio, a lot of questions were around who's going to
mm,
how are Brentford going to replace his goals and how they as a team how they go forward and achieve what they plan to achieve this season. Well, I feel like they've in his absence the team has gone up another notch. Where Brian Mbeumo, Jan Wissa, Kevin Shade, Mikel Damsgaard, all those attacking players have all come into their element this year. And Mbeumo chipping in with 18
hmm.
Premier League goals and 8 assists is an impressive return this year. I feel he's
Oh
another
yeah,
player that
absolutely.
he has that. I think he scores variety of goals. It's just not because you know there's some players that you expect him to score one type of goal, beats in the box, clever finishes in the box.
Hmm.
But I think this is a very, very dangerous player. He has the pace, the physicality, the intensity, also the technical abilities, finishes, left foot on his left foot sometimes, right foot as well, even some headers as well. Very impressive for a player who's trying to. And again, it's one a player that I feel that should, like as you mentioned, Osimhen and Milan, I feel that another player that should be on that list in terms of attackers that should be looking to move this next window because he can. A lot of clubs could
Yeah,
really
but
do to.
it's just that there's a Premier League tax, and that's why. Yeah, that's why I kind of put him out of the
Yeah,
list. There's a Premier League tax that comes, especially from a
but
player that has
yeah,
had a good season. Even another shout out would be Matheus Cunha. Those kind of players, if you want people that have proven ability in the Premier League, you can go for them. Yeah, no, Mbemo is good. I think he scored 2 goals in the last game.
yeah,
For
2 goals, one
Brentford,
assist.
if that my memory
Yeah,
serves right.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
one assist. Yeah, that's a good shout. Uh,
and the second one is Yuri Tillemans, Aston Villa. I think his
yeah,
performances
yeah,
against Newcastle and against PSG in the Champions League were really outstanding.
PSG.
That's what it looks like. Again, my shouts, but I think he's been the best midfielder consistently in the Premier League this season.
Ooh, that is a
That's
bold statement.
I think for me, I
That
think
is a
he's been
bold
the most consistent
statement.
Premier
I
League
wouldn't
midfielder
put
this
him
year.
there. I can't think
Uh,
too much right now, but I wouldn't put him.
Yeah, yeah. Not not just I think not just the best, but I think the most consistent. The his importance to his team. I know there are guys like Gravenberch, Caicedo, McAllister, Szoboszlai, but I think like a Gravenberch, for example, he's somewhat tailed off in the last since the turn of the year. I don't know if the amount of games or his yeah. So exactly. Yeah, but I, yeah, I know, but with Salah, no, Salah, and I think Salah got his with his new contract extension. But I also think with Salah, we all expected this when it was when Christmas Day came and that Christmas picture of with Salah and the Christmas tree went up. We all knew this was coming. This is what always happens. But also, I think it speaks to how great his performances were in the earlier parts of the season because still the Premier League top goal scorer and top goal creator in the Premier League. And I think it's just again with Liverpool, I think they're just about crawling to the title. It's not a dominant possession just yet, but still, I think for them they've done the hard bits already, so they just getting there. And I believe they win it. I mean, if another win, I think with another win they probably might get the job done this weekend. But that's nice to see. And best team performance this past weekend and also past week. Arsenal? Okay, yeah. Yeah, 5-1. 5-1. Yeah, I think over to like 5-1 flatters them a lot. It could have been really, really, really bad. Yeah, but yeah, I agree with you. I think uh, yeah, it's as much as it pains me to say. I think Arsenal they've had a fantastic week. Well, for me, I'll go with Aston Villa again. And I know they lost against Paris Saint-Germain, but but the way they came back from that game it was quite impressive. But more impressive was their performance against Newcastle and how they dispatched Newcastle with somewhat with a bit of with ease at the end of the day because one of those games you look at okay now this could be really it was a very good game but you expect a tougher encounter but I feel they went it tactically. I think tactically they were fantastic. The players, the attacking players, Morgan Rogers, Ollie Watkins, they were all interchanging positions. They were very strong, very physical. The way I think that's the way I like seeing Premier League teams going about that football. Very physical, dominant, aggressive. And while watching that game, I couldn't help but feel. I think a coach like Unai Emery gets. I think the perception of him as a coach has really hampered his um not his abilities, but I think his the idea of him as is almost sour since the Arsenal job where he's quite persona non grata at Arsenal, but at the same time he's a very capable coach. Some might even say he's probably a better coach than current Arsenal coach right now, Mikel Arteta. But for me, I think Unai Emery is doing an amazing job at that club. The amount of the amount of the amount of attacking players they have, the depth in the attacking areas, and even in midfield, they look like a really good team. And they have that. I think they have that harmony in that team, but at the same time, they still I think they could still do a bit of work in that squad, get more quality in, probably at the back. But I think with Emery, they have a very capable coach taking that club forward. And again, I won't be and I won't be surprised if they end up in one of the Champions League spots because I think they represented themselves well in the Champions League this season. So I'll shout out to them. Yeah. Yeah. Rashford. Mm. Okay. Okay. Are there any extra? Okay. Okay. Yeah. 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 I think, and again, I also add this occurrence didn't just happen in the Champions League. It happened in the Europa League as well, where Lazio were top, Atletico Bilbao, United were third, and Tottenham fourth. So three out of those four teams are in the semi-final right now. So it's very, I think, I think the one thing that might feel very, yeah, Lazio they got knocked out on penalties to I think a surprising defeat to Bodo Glimt. But I think Liverpool might be the one club that might feel a bit well. I don't know. I won't say yeah exactly. I think hard done by the host because they had a fantastic first. I don't know what you say first. Group is not first table, first. Yeah, 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 first league stage because then they get hit one of the hardest draws of the competition. So it's very. But again, I feel in terms of the entertainment factor, I think it's been a very good. There's been a lot of very good games, and more importantly, been a lot of very good games from the first round. Very good games, competitive games. But again, it's still we're still getting the hang of it. Personally I like it. It's a bit different. There's more. I think there's more jeopardy to the games because I wasn't because like you knew back in with the group stage, if you could win your first three games, you're basically qualified. Except there were differences. I know there are a few exceptions to that thinking, but now it seems like a lot of games, a lot of big teams really went to the last few games, or even the last game of the competition to really ensure that survival into the next round. So it's a very, I think it's interesting. It shows probably, I think it still needs a bit more time. I think there needs to be a bit more, there needs to be more tweaking to the configuration. I think personally, I'd like to see clubs from the same country avoid each other all the way until the quarterfinals because I didn't like Paris Saint-Germain playing against them again. I think against Brest, and I didn't like there was another one. Yeah, yeah, I didn't like that. I think it's that takes away a bit from the flavors at the same time. But again, it's been interesting so far. So I'm looking forward to it going forward. Yeah, seems I've lost him again. Okay, I think I'll just wrap up the show. But again, thank you to our listeners, our followers. Thanks for the likes, the questions, the comments. Kindly like, share, subscribe, and keep supporting the page. And we'll see you again soon.